Natalie Sideserf here of Sideserf Cake Studio, and I'm going to show you how I made a cantaloupe cake. To make this cantaloupe cake, I'm starting out with cake. Round layers of vanilla with green buttercream between the layers in a small, big, small fashion. So a 4-inch layer of cake, a 5-inch, another 5-inch, and finally topped with another 4-inch. I'm temporarily placing a bamboo skewer down the center of the cake to keep the layers from slipping or the cake from tipping over. Then I carve the cake into a round shape. Round cakes are always really difficult. They don't have a flat surface on the bottom to help balance the cake, so the cake is never truly secure or sturdy, and that makes it really hard to make a perfect circle. Lucky for me, melons grow in nature, and in nature there are imperfections. And that means if my round cake is just a little lumpy or it's a little oblong, that's just fine. Now that the cake is covered in buttercream, I'm placing it in the fridge to firm up while I work on the cantaloupe's texture. To create this texture, I'm using food-safe molding putty. I just roll out 2 equal amounts of putty, bust out a real cantaloupe, mix the putty, press it onto the surface of the melon, and let it set for 20 minutes.
20 minutes later.
Then I just peel it away, and I'm left with the perfect cantaloupe texture. And I'm done with this melon for a moment. Next, I'm making it snow cornstarch, and this is going to keep the modeling chocolate from sticking. Speaking of modeling chocolate, here I have some in the color ivory, and I'm rolling it out with a rolling pin. Now I'm taking my beautiful new cantaloupe texture mat, and I'm pressing it right onto that chocolate. Back to the cake. So it's nice and firm from being in the fridge, so now I'm covering it in that modeling chocolate. I snip away the excess chocolate with scissors, I blend the seams with a sculpting tool, and then I add texture with the texture mat to any areas that need a little touch-up. I actually decided to make this cantaloupe cake today because of that texture. It's really unique. It's almost like the cantaloupe is covered in like a thin brown rope. It's all twisted up. Now it's time to sculpt the small stem on the side of the cantaloupe. This is one of those really fun cakes to cut. I mean, you guys know that it's a cake, but I bet when I post this cake cutting on Instagram, I'm going to confuse quite a few people. And by the way, you can follow me on Instagram at SideserfCakes. It's time to paint. You can see that there are 2 different shades of green on the real cantaloupe. One side of the melon is a light green, and the other side is a darker green. So the first thing I do is color the entire cake green, and I'm using a few different shades, so some areas are a bit darker and some are lighter. Then I wipe some of the green off of the raised areas with a damp paper towel, and that exposes that ivory chocolate. The stem is slightly darker green than the rest of the melon, so I'm painting that too. Now painting this cake is pretty tricky. I need the deeper creases to stay green, and then the raised areas need to be a light ivory color. So I'm taking this thin, long bristled brush, and I'm brushing the surface of the cake very lightly with the side of the brush. That way I don't get too much of this ivory color into those green creases. This is both fun and pretty difficult. The color doesn't always do exactly what I want, but it's really neat when I take my time and I make it work. I went into this cake thinking, how in the world am I going to paint this thing? So I did what I usually do when I question myself, and that is I rely on my instinct. Basically, I just worried about one thing at a time until it was time to paint, and then I just dove in and I experimented. Eventually, I realized that painting with the side of my paintbrush was the most effective way. I've never used the side of a paintbrush quite like this before, but now I know I can. I'm always learning. And there you have it, a cantaloupe cake. Now let's chop this melon in half. I kind of wish I had a sword or a hammer. If you guys like this video, give it a like and subscribe to this channel for a new cake every week. And if you want a shout out and your name in the credits, head over to subscribestar.com/sidesurfcakes.